Emily Larson was experiencing all the joy and exhaustion that motherhood brings. Since the moment her son Danny came into the world, he had introduced her to a completely new life. Being her first child and losing her husband in a car accident intensified her feelings of motherhood even more. Balancing her career as a doctor with being a mother, Emily found herself needing to hire a caregiver to look after Danny. Initially, everything was going smoothly. The caregiver, Sarah, took care of Danny with love, allowing Emily to focus on her work. Sarah often remarked on how adorable and calm Danny was, while Emily eagerly anticipated every moment she could spend with her son. However, things would soon take a sudden turn. One night, while Emily was on duty at the hospital, Sarah called her in a panic. Sensing the fear in the caregiver's voice, Emily panicked, fearing that something had happened to her son. Sarah pleaded for Emily to come home urgently. Racing home from the hospital faster than she had ever driven, Emily felt immense relief upon seeing that her son was perfectly fine, deeply asleep even. But her relief quickly turned to anger. She demanded an explanation from Sarah for the senseless call that had frightened her so. Sarah had been perfectly fine until that day. She had taken excellent care of Danny, never raising her voice. She had seemed trustworthy. But now she struggled to explain her actions. Sarah described hearing strange sounds from Danny's room, seeing some shadows, and even witnessing objects moving. Despite her love for Danny, Sarah said she couldn't continue with her job and tearfully left the house. Emily was left in shock, trying to make sense of what was happening. But more importantly, she needed to find another caregiver immediately. However, things didn't go as planned. Caregivers were quitting one by one, each citing the same reason. Mysterious events were occurring in Danny's room at night. Objects were moving on their own, strange sounds were heard, and an eerie atmosphere filled the room. As a woman with a medical background, Emily found it hard to believe in the supernatural. But when the last caregiver also left after experiencing the same things, she realized the seriousness of the situation. Was there really a problem in her son's room? Emily pondered over the caregiver's accounts. Sarah had vividly described the shadows and strange sounds in the room. Other caregivers had similar experiences. If so many people were saying the same thing, perhaps there was some truth to it. An idea struck Emily. She would install a camera in the room to monitor what was happening at night. This way, she could identify the source of the mysterious events and ensure her son's safety. Emily put Danny to bed and entered his room to set up the camera. She carefully chose the best spot to place a small camera near the corner of the room, close to the wall. After securing the camera, she nervously tried to sleep. The next morning, her first task was to review the footage from the camera. She watched the footage carefully for a long time. No one entered the room. Everything seemed normal. Just as she was beginning to lose hope, she suddenly noticed movement. In the footage she watched, strange events were indeed occurring in Danny's room. Objects were moving on their own, shadows were wandering around, and eerie sounds could be heard. Emily couldn't believe what she was seeing. Deciding to brave her fear, she chose to spend a night in the room with her son. Perhaps witnessing the truth with her own eyes would help her make sense of the mysterious events. After tucking her son in, she turned off the lights and waited in the darkness. She woke up to a sound in the middle of the night, her heart pounding in her chest. Opening her eyes, she saw that strange things were happening in the room again. A book had fallen from the shelf, and a shadow was gliding across the room. Emily trembled with fear, unsure of what to do. Summoning her courage, she turned on the lights and began to investigate the room. She followed a sound coming from a hole in the wall and discovered a hidden passage. At that moment, she felt a wave of relief wash over her, because she realized that the source of the sounds and movements was just a few squirrels. To prevent the squirrels from entering the room, she had the wall repaired and hired a new caregiver. Once the mystery was solved, life returned to normalcy.